Joining me on the show right now is sprint car driver Jamie Ball. Jamie, you are kind of a full-time guy at Knoxville, is that correct?
Yes, definitely. I grew up here my whole life and ran here for the last 11 years. Took a couple years off when we did the ASCS National Tour, but this year we were back full-time again and had a good run at the championship until the season was cut short by COVID, but came up just a little bit short.
Yeah, tell me about your season this year. I know you picked up a win, and I think you ended up, second in the points there, but how did the season go until things kind of got shut down there?
Well, for a while, we didn't even know if we were going to have a season. Things were getting pretty scary there, especially here in Knoxville. And so I was just fortunate and grateful that we had one at all. I really appreciate everything everybody at Knoxville did. But it was pretty short. I think I only had 12 races total this year, which in comparison, a couple years ago, I ran almost 60 with the national tour. So definitely down compared to normal. We started off great, hitting on all cylinders, and really was fairly unstoppable there for a while. I think 4 weeks in a row I ran third, first, second, and dang near beat Brian Brown and won, and gave one away on the last lap to ASCS National Tour competitor Scott Bagucki, and was doing pretty good, and then just kind of hit a little bit of a slump just kind of before nationals there, and was still running, guess what I call a slump, still running. Worst I ran was ninth, but compared to how we were running, it just wasn't quite up to par. But overall, it was pretty good short season. We had 4 races left at Knoxville after nationals there, but ended up getting canceled, and it was a total bummer because we were only 22 points out of the point championship. So what ifs, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess we should probably specify you run 360s for the most part there. Why is 360 a good category for you?
For me, with our family team and family funded operation, we really don't have a lot of other sponsors and people that help foot the bill. So 360s not affordable by any means, because the price of motors are still outrageous, especially when you're going to race here at Knoxville. You need to have fresh engines and updated and best of the best, and that's what Charlie and James Fisher out in Ohio give to us at Fisher Racing Engines. But I don't know, you're not competing with the guys that do it for a living. If you go run 15th in a 410 race, you were beat by the 14 guys that beat you. 12 of them race for a living and don't go to work on Monday. So it's really hard to keep up with those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that's the other kind of thing for you is obviously you're not racing full time. You're not racing for a living. What are you doing when you're not in the race car?
Right now, full time, I'm a real estate agent for Iowa Realty here in Knoxville, licensed to sell real estate anywhere in the state of Iowa. And I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years and just started doing it full time here recently. And then I keep busy even more so. My fiance and I've got a 10-acre ranch outside of town where we got horses and dogs and a pygmy goat that lives inside, and we now got 13 chickens, and just, I don't know, kind of living a life with her that I grew up in the city. So it's been fun for me learning and doing all these different kind of things. So definitely not a whole lot of free time still.
What about the pygmy goat? I saw the other day there was a video on your Twitter about the goat trying to steal the Chewy box. Tell me about the pygmy goat. Why is that a pet?
Well, when we bought this place a couple years ago, I joked and said I wanted goats, and I didn't specify. I've learned that I need to specify with my fiance JC exactly what I mean and where I want them to be. And on Christmas 2 years ago, she blindfolded me and handed me 2 3-pound pygmy goats. And long story short, one of them ended up passing away. She had a genetic defect, but we named them after the rappers Snoop Dogg and Eazy-E. So it's Snoop Goat was the one that passed away, and then Easy-G is the one we still have. So she thinks in her mind she has a dog. She's grown up around Blue Heeler and 2 Weimaraners, so she sleeps on the couch, sleeps in a dog kennel. She even eats dog food.
Nice. When are we going to see you on like an episode of House Hunters or something, showing people around houses in Knoxville?
Oh, probably not in Knoxville. I get emails once a year. HGTV looks for agents and clients in the Des Moines area, but I don't think they're quite branching out to Knoxville quite yet.
I mean, come on. If there's a nice racetrack there, why wouldn't they come to Knoxville? That's ridiculous. Tell me about kind of getting started in a sprint car. I mean, is that just the easy thing to do when you're kind of from that area? The sprint car is just kind of the natural place to go when you decide you want to race?
Without a doubt. My dad started racing at Knoxville Raceway in 1998. And all through all of my schooling here, I've grown up and went to Knoxville and pretty much worshiped the grounds, Marion County Fairground there where Knoxville sits. And, every project I did, everything that I had spare time was pretty much spent on some kind of form of racing. And it's just, once it's in your blood, it's really hard to get it out. And I've dreamed to race at Knoxville Raceway, and I've been very fortunate that my dad and family and some other people have given me the opportunities to do so. So I'm grateful from where I'm at. And, like I said, I ran national tour a couple of years, and you go away and you really don't know what you got till you're over at a hobby stock track somewhere on a Saturday night in Arkansas. And it just doesn't quite feel the same as when you pull into the hallowed grounds of Knoxville Raceway. So I'm glad to be back here and where I'm at in my life. And, I've kind of put the professional do it for a living dreams aside. That's not going to happen unless something big changed in my life. So I'm just content racing at Knoxville, and even if it's just 360 class, I'm okay with that. So I'm happy where I'm at.
What's your what was your kind of journey to get that opportunity to kind of race at Knoxville and run sprint cars? Were you a mini sprint guy? Did you do go-karts? Like, what did that look like when you first got started?
Well, when I first wanted to get started, my mom kept me in a bubble. I'm an only child. So I wasn't ever allowed to really race anything because there was nothing around here besides flat carts, and she wasn't a big fan of those. So when Dan Ebright from California came out and brought the QRC Outlaw Kart here and built English Creek Speedway about 12 miles south of Knoxville, I became really good friends with his grandson, Alan Ambers, and practically hung out and lived at their shop, MLC Motorsports, outside of town for 8th, 9th, and 10th grade for the most part. And finally got a kart, and it was kind of the greatest part of the story is my first ever ride was from my algebra teacher in 8th grade. He had 2 karts, and he really needed help. He was struggling. His name was Nick DeMoss, and we called him the Professor was his nickname, and he needed some help. So my dad dedicated some time to him and gave him some help on his outlaw kart, and taught him to go fast and got him in victory lanes. So he said the least he could do was put me in one. So my first ever ride came from him. And then I ran outlaw karts at English Creek and really all over the country from 2005 to 2009.
What that kind of program of outlaw karts, we have that here in North Carolina with Millbridge, and obviously it's big in California. Why is that such a good kind of breeding ground for race car drivers?
I think the biggest thing is the horsepower to weight ratio. The karts are weighing 450 pounds and they're putting out over 100 horsepower now. So it's kind of the closest comparison you can get to, what a 410 sprint car is, power wise. So I think it really teaches everybody really, really good throttle control. And, the way you got to kind of muscle the car around like you do a sprint car, it's not easy. There at times you got to be smooth, but at other times you got to know when to hang it out and, get up on the fence. And just the competition that comes from those cars, I think people really learn to adapt a lot better because it's not just the same thing 25 laps in a row, hitting the bottom or whatever. The track changes as well. So I don't think there's anything better than an outlaw kart. And I think, your Kyle Larson and Rico's have proved that that's probably one of the best breeding grounds there is. Have you been back in one since you kind of moved up to sprint cars? Yeah, a couple times. When they did that Indy Indoors at the Pacer Stadium in Indianapolis, I put a kart together there. QRC and Kaiser Wheels and Straight Up Performance helped get me one going kind of at a little bit of a cheaper cost, and I actually still have it today. And I pretty much only ran indoor races since then. Did Lauren Stewart and Brian Clausen Shamrock Classic in DuQuoin, and then I've went a couple other places that were indoor things, nothing big though, and just kind of dabbled around in that. But I do still have it, so we'll see someday get back out there, get the 5J back out in English Creek maybe. Did you like from outlaw karts? Do you jump straight into a 360? Did you go 305s? What was that kind of next jump then? My first year, I actually did double duty quite often at Knoxville. They had the open 305 class, the built 305s at that time, and then I did 360s as well. So just kind of got into both. The 305s I didn't feel was too much of a jump. Speed wise, you kind of don't have as much horsepower and don't get as much wheel spin. That it wasn't as bad, but man, when I jumped in that 360 for the first time from a little 100 horsepower outlaw kart to a 360, it was something else. I actually timed decent, was on the pole of my heat race, and my dad told me just if I can get the jump, go to the top and just run the cushion, basically wide open the whole time. And I got the jump and I went to go to the top and I turned right in the middle of the track going into turn 1 at Knoxville and spun out in front of 10 other cars and backed it up on the berm. Didn't nobody hit me. I didn't tear nothing up, but it sure knocked me down a notch for a couple nights.
Yeah. And then I guess that next question is from, when you kind of get comfortable in a 305 or a 360, what's that next jump then like into a 410?
In a 410, how quick you get to the corner, I felt was the biggest difference for me. Qualifying and hot laps and stuff like that wasn't bad, but it's when it slicks off that it becomes a lot more challenging. And to be honest, probably the biggest challenge that I felt was just being so much more nervous, lining up next to Brian Brown and Kerry Madsen, Ian Madsen, and people like that at Knoxville, with the experience they have and how many races they run a year compared to what I'd ran. I think I've only ran probably 8 to 10 410 shows, and I actually did better my first few shows because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was more timid, trying to drive it easier, and it turns out that I could actually go faster. I was running the bottom better, I qualified better, and then the more comfortable I got, the worse I was, because I think then I was overdriving it and wasn't quite putting the car in the right place.
Since you've kind of been out and traveled some and doing ASCS races and things like that, and now you kind of know what some other tracks look like, what are kind of the unique challenges of running Knoxville and even running Knoxville on a weekly basis?
The hardest part when you go away is coming back and being able to qualify as good as you did after you've been there for a while. We call it qualifying trim, and it takes quite a while to get trimmed out, to get tuned in, to be that extra 1/10 of a second a lap, to be that much faster. Because you look at last night, I think even at Eldora, from first to dead last was less than a second apart, and from first to 20th is like 2/10. So just being perfect in qualifying, being trimmed out, being smooth. I call it locking your elbows when you qualify, of just being locked in so that you're not scrubbing any speed. You're hitting every mark that you can. And I know that when I went away on the road and did ASCS, where we do the pill draw points format, it racing hard in your heat versus qualifying to set up your night, it really makes things difficult.
What is that? You talk about there about, locking in there and being trimmed out and qualifying. What does that look like when you're scrubbing speed? Is that just a matter of like, you're just trying to keep the car as straight as you can all the way around?
Yeah, keeping it straight as you can. And like at Knoxville, a lot of people, or at least myself, you kind of, I call it floating the car a little bit. You kind of let it go where it naturally wants to go. You don't try to force it down, or you don't try to pin it up, to the cushion or whatever. You just kind of let the car naturally drive itself, but keep it in the right spot. Putting it in the right spot on entry is probably the biggest thing that just kind of helps solve half your problems. But I know when you go away, my dad called it short track-itis, that I would actually turn getting into the corner at Knoxville, where a lot of times at Knoxville you don't turn, you just keep it turned up to the right a little bit and use your brake to turn it, or keep it straight, and just less effort.
When you run a track like Knoxville on a weekly basis, how much does it change? Are you making big setup changes week to week, depending on weather, things like that, or can you kind of keep a pretty similar setup week to week?
We have found that keeping it simple is 100 times easier. I think that was kind of part of our problem the last 4-point races of the year at Knoxville. Was the harder we tried, the worse it was. We went and had a track rental and I think we actually did 2 track rentals and did a little bit of testing other places, and we got worse, where I think we've just found that we've got a good base, and if we can just stick to it and make sure that we're prepared in the shop going to the racetrack, that we won't have any issues going forward for the most part. And just keeping it simple has been more of a key to success than trying to overthink it.
When you kind of get out and go run ASCS, were you kind of looking at trying to move up and do a 410 series full-time All-Stars, World of Outlaws, whatever? Is that kind of what you were thinking when you made that move?
Somewhat. I'm 30 years old now. Every 20-something-year-old wants to race sprint cars for a living, and it just sounds super simple until you really get down to it. Things are just so expensive, and with our family funded operation, ASCS was probably going to be the limit, but it was definitely a chance that I felt that maybe I could show myself to where you could go get a ride in All-Stars or Pennsylvania, or, a good ride at Knoxville, like a TKS car, or the KCP car or whatever, things like that. But for the most part, it was just, I was at a point in my life, and our business was at a point in its, relationship there with everything, that we were able to go and get out on the road and kind of see new tracks and vacation a little and just experience new things. And It was great while it lasted, but I think a lot of us realized that we like our bed at home. We like seeing our dogs and our family, and you know, it was no secret that everybody on my team wasn't really getting any younger. So we weren't just a bunch of 21-year-olds looking to hit the pavement.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you know, you're almost like talking about it like it was a bad thing or something that you went out and did that, and you know, I would almost say it's the other way. Like it's a great thing that you at least took the opportunity and took the chance to go do it, because most people don't get that opportunity to go do that. And I think, you know, to get to race at all, I think is something, again, not a lot of people get to do. So you know, maybe don't look at it so negatively. I feel like you have like a negative view of it a little bit.
Oh, I don't have a negative view of it. You know, it was definitely good and taught us a lot. I ended up finding out that I'm not quite a short track guy. I'm more of a big track Knoxville guy. You know, I'm better with the speed and being smoother. I definitely got better. Those guys taught me a whole different mentality and a whole different aggression that I think was in part helped me compete for a championship this year at Knoxville, and I think it will going forward forever. And it definitely taught us how to be prepared going on the road when you don't know what you're going to encounter over the next month or two when you're not home. You know, definitely shows and helps you when kind of gives you your brain the notion that you do got to put in the time and the effort in the off season way more than you ever have. And you know, guys like Rob Hart that worked for us definitely taught us that preparation's key. You know, you don't need to just have the car ready to go to the track that night. You need to have 2 or 3 spares that are all ready to go, because you just never know what scenario you're going to get to. So like you said, I'm grateful for everybody that's been a part of my life and that's been a part of my career, and the opportunities that I have. I've just found that I'm a little bit more of a homeboy, and I love Knoxville Raceway, and I don't think you'll ever find me on a tour again unless, you know, something big in my life changes.
Give me an idea, like when the season's going on and you know, you're racing every weekend at Knoxville. What does your week look like? You know, how are you kind of fitting in time to make sure the car's ready, and then also try to get out and sell some real estate?
A lot of times during the day, at least, you know, this year anyway, from 8 a.m. I'd show up to work and get busy doing things, calling people, emails, you know, everything. A lot of stuff I do is mainly on the computer for the most part. And, you know, then after lunch, my dad and I'd go get in the race shop, and we'd take Sundays off. We kind of called that family day, and everybody just take a chill off of racing for a day and kind of recharge. And then after lunch, we'd always wash the car on Monday, and, you know, depending on what was going on, maybe start maintenance and try to finish maintenance on Tuesday. And then we're big believers on tire work. So we'd, you know, work on getting new tires and get them cut and grooved and siped and everything, and do that Wednesday, Thursday. And then we kind of try to have everything done Friday, so that come Saturday, since we're all a bunch of working folk, that we're not, you know, waking up at 7 a.m. to finish everything that we haven't yet. So we just kind of try to have a good routine and make sure that everything, you know, has your full attention when you're doing it.
Have you noticed that your racing has helped, you know, maybe just, you know, even in name recognition has helped your real estate job?
Oh, absolutely. I honestly don't think I would have probably got into real estate if I didn't have the little bit of the popularity from racing, and just, you know, people knowing my name a little bit here locally, because Knoxville, we're a small town, but I think we still have 18 to 20 real estate agents here in this town alone. And competition's definitely hard. You know, there's people that have been doing it for 25, 30 years, so it's hard to compete with that. But I feel like with my age, I'm one of the younger guys doing real estate here in Knoxville. I don't think there's maybe but 1 or 2 younger than I am. So it kind of helps grab some of the, you know, millennials and some of the different people in the demographic.
And then I guess vice versa, has being a real estate agent helped you with racing? I mean, are you able to maybe get some sponsors, or, you know, kind of use that as a way to maybe help out your race team?
No, not really. Not yet anyway. If anything, I've picked up quite a few clients just that are looking to have a house here for their race team, you know, or a couple are currently expressing interest in buying a shop somewhere around here. You know, I've had a few people retire here because they love Knoxville Raceway, and just, you know, it's been cool to meet people and cool to help them. And, you know, I'll get phone calls from, seems like California is the real popular one. I've been talking with a lot of car owners and drivers and stuff from California, just because they can't believe how cheap our real estate is around here. You know, people are out there are used to $500,000 to $1 million properties, and you can get the same $500,000 house here for 120 grand. So they just can't believe it. And, you know, it's just been cool and been fun to meet people and help them out and show them new places.
Even when you're running Knoxville Weekly, have there been opportunities for you to, maybe roll up and run Jackson or run Husitz or, run Oski? Does that stuff ever pop up for you?
Yeah, a little bit. We dabble a lot in the Sprint Invaders organization down here in kind of mainly in Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and they run a lot of nice places, and they pay decent. It's like 300 to start and $2,000 to win. So we'll try some of them, and we've been really supportive of I-80. They have a lot of good, 2 or 2,500 to win races, and it's nice because we can work in the morning and then drive the 2 or 3 hours later to the racetrack and not really have to put our life on pause, I guess. I'd love to go race Jackson, but it makes it really hard with a 4.5 hour drive to come back and race Knoxville on Saturday. And we want to our number one goal is to always be prepared and ready for Knoxville.
When I think you've run the Nationals, a couple of times now, is that correct?
Just twice.
Just twice. Okay. So as you're racing weekly and kind of doing with that crowd, how different is it, and how, what's your preparation with the car look like? What are you trying to do mentally, physically to kind of prepare yourself for that level of competition? And even knowing that, like, I feel like on some level, the guys that run Knoxville Weekly have at least some leg up in terms of, track conditions and things like that. But how do you get yourself ready to kind of go run the Nationals?
You're talking about 410 Nationals?
410 Nationals, yeah.
My first year, I was pretty excited. We'd had a pretty good year, and it was my first year in a 410, but I'd actually been, like I said, pretty good when I first started. And it was decent. We qualified all right, and I actually missed the invert to start on the front row of a prelim night by 2 spots, and was doing good till I ended up getting mowed over and destroyed a car. That was the year of my Lightning McQueen car.
Yep, I remember.
It damn near killed me. It was a rough Nationals on that, but that year I was pretty excited and had pretty high expectations. The last couple of years or whatever that we'd ran, I'd more went in with, we're going to do the best we can, and whatever's meant to be will be, and let the cards fall how they lie and go from there. Because those 410 guys are so hard to qualify with. They just, especially the Outlaw guys, they just got those motors tuned in so crisp and so perfect that I feel like even on my best lap, I'm still probably going to be a couple tenths off of them. So not a whole lot of high expectations there, but it's definitely fun to get a lineup with the best of the best and see where you're at.
How is the old heartbeat when you're lining up in those heat races and some of those mains?
When I was starting 11th that first year, I could literally see the front, and I had Donnie Schatz and Ian Madsen starting behind me. And I was doing all right. I was running like mid-pack, and Donnie and Ian passed me, and it was pretty heavy that night. I think it rained a little bit. And I got right in behind them and followed them and was hanging with them. And I think I passed 4 or 5 cars and was up to like 10th or 12th or something after I fell back a little, and then ended up getting in that crash. So that was pretty disappointing, because even though they passed me, just to be able to like somewhat hang with Donnie Schatz at that point, which I think was 2017, was pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you get nerves in the car? I mean, you've been doing it for as long as you have now, and when you jump in on a weekly show, is there, is the heart rate up? Is there adrenaline?
In 360s, I don't really feel all that nervous anymore. Heck, I get more nervous on iRacing, I think, than like when we had those World of Outlaw series in the off season here and during COVID. Like, I can't imagine what my heart rate would have been that night at Volusia when I was leading and the computer glitched. I could barely freaking breathe. In the 410, at Knoxville, I still get super nervous. You just, sounds dumb, but you got to tell yourself to breathe. You just don't, I don't know. You get so wound up and so adrenaline rush that you don't really think about it. And what's helped me a lot, Ricky Logan's kind of a mentor of mine. He used to race back in the day for a living with the Lucas Oil car. And he told me, he said, just mentally, you got to breathe at every pit gate. So at least you're getting 2 breaths every 15, 20 seconds. So, as dumb as that sounds, it definitely helps.
In talking about that iRacing stuff, I feel like a lot of drivers get asked this, but like, is there really any similarity between iRacing and actually jumping in a car?
Feeling wise, no, because you don't have that feeling in your butt that you do in a real car. But I say situational awareness, it definitely does. You're still lining up on starts. You're still, track changing and slide jobs and lines and different things, and different guys that you race with, still kind of have the same similarities somewhat. So I think it definitely helps keep you sharp visually, but in terms of feeling wise, it doesn't do anything for you there. But I don't know how they'll ever get it much more real unless you get a rig that physically moves perfectly with the car.
Yeah. I want to ask you about kind of just the community of drivers and crew guys and stuff around Knoxville. It seems like there's kind of some iconic guys that have raced there for as long as they have. And you talk about Lasowski and the Madsons and Brian Brown and all of these guys. Does everybody talk? Is everybody friends, or does everybody kind of keep to themselves? I feel like, when you talk to the outlaw guys, a lot of the outlaw guys kind of seem to keep to themselves, but is that true of a weekly track like Knoxville?
I think for the most part, people kind of keep to themselves. You've got your, two or three guys that are friends with each other type thing. I know with myself, I just kind of keep to myself. We say that I bring my friends to the racetrack with me. You're not there to make friends. I'm there to put that car that we all work so hard on in victory lane, and not ever going to go out of the way to make enemies, but also not overly worried about that. And I think in Knoxville in general, they're such a racing community that everybody's there for each other if needed, and no matter what happens, we kind of all come together if something goes wrong. But I think a lot of people just keep to themselves because it's just so important anymore that every team's basically ran as a business.
How many wins do you have at Knoxville?
I have 6 360 wins at Knoxville, just one 305, and still shooting for that 410 win. It's kind of one of the, I don't know that I'll ever get back to it, but it's kind of one of the dreams of mine to help. I think I'd be one of the first guys to win in order: 305, 360, and then 410. There's been 3 or 4 guys do it, but they've been 360 or 410 guys that then bounce back to a 305 later on in their career. But that's definitely a goal of mine.
With having the number of 360 wins that you have, is it still as exciting when you win, and is it easier to win at, once you kind of learn how to win a little bit, does it make it easier down the road to then win again?
No, I don't think so. Every win at Knoxville is as special as maybe not the first, but the rest. It's I won that race here early in June, and about followed it up again with a win the next week, and then couldn't crack the top 5 the next 2 months. So Knoxville's tough. The guys and girls that come here and compete, they're no slouches. Even on our weekly shows, I think we were getting 30 cars or so, and it's difficult. And every win means something. I've got all 6 of the trophies up on my mantle at my house, and they mean a lot, and they're not easy to get, and it's not cheap getting there.
Obviously with the Knoxville season kind of being put on hold, you guys, didn't get to end like you wanted to, but what do preparations kind of look like for next year? How do you kind of get things lined up for 2021? And, are you trying to maybe find some more sponsors? Are you working on the car regularly? Like, what does that look like as you kind of look towards next season?
For the moment, everything's just kind of put away right now, kind of winterized or whatever, because once Knoxville was over, we just decided with how this year's been and with COVID and all that we were just going to put it back in the box and save it for next year. We ended up with a good amount of equipment left and didn't really tear a whole lot up, so that was good. Definitely looking for sponsors for next year. We're going to continue focusing on Knoxville with the family car, and pretty much that car will only run here in the Midwest, run Knoxville, maybe some Sprint Invaders, I-80 type stuff. But looking for other opportunities. I think I've got a good enough name and done good enough here, at least around the Midwest, that I'd love to find a car owner to drive for at Sprint Invaders every week, or somebody up at Jackson, whether it be 360 or 410. I'm kind of open to anything. Definitely got our family-owned 5J going to go for Knoxville for hopefully our first track championship. Since we were close this year, I think we've got something to build upon for next year, especially if it gets into the toughness of a full season. I think we'll definitely be well prepared for that with our Maxim Fisher number 5J. We're ready to go.
I know, just kind of keeping up with you on social media that you stay pretty kind of locked into what's going on kind of around the country and things like that. What are your kind of overall thoughts on what you've seen so far in sprint car racing, across World of Outlaws, All-Stars, what Kyle Larson's done, things like that?
Kyle Larson's not a human. I think we're all in agreement on that. He's got 39 wins, and I would love to have 39 wins by the time I end my career overall over a 20-year span, and he's done it in a short season. So, we can all agree that he's amazing. But other than that, I'm happy for sprint car racing. I'm a fan first, whether I never race a day again in my whole life, I'm still going to be a sprint car fan. I love it. And for what the country's gone through, I honestly can't believe how healthy sprint car racing is. We've seen some of the absolute best fields of drivers and talent and equipment that we haven't seen ever. The race tonight, the Governor's Reign at Eldora, has got 48 of the absolute best cars, you could finish dead last and you're still not a slouch. You know, you're still awesome. And, you know, just all these races, the way tracks are coming together and being creative, the way Knoxville did the not nationals, and, you know, Williams Grove putting up 75,000, everything Todd Quirin's doing at Jackson and at Huset's, it's amazing. You know, I wish I had a big team going to where I could run a 410 schedule, Friday at Jackson, Saturday in Knoxville, Sunday at Huset's next year. It's just going to bring a whole new level of opportunity for guys here. You know, I remember 5-10 years ago, you'd have both Madsons and Lasowski and Brown and McCarles and all of them. They'd hit all 3 shows. You know, they put on a ton of miles, but everything within 5 hours of each other. So it's just really good. You know, sprint car racing's healthy, whether it be 360 or 410. I mean, look at Lucas Oil down there this weekend with the ASCS. They had 77 competitors for a 3-day show. You know, I don't know that you need a whole lot more sprint cars than that. So it's been pretty awesome.
As somebody who knows as much as you do and has been in the seat, when you look around the country, who are some drivers, and, you know, maybe not top line guys, maybe not, you know, Swede and gravel, but like, who are some other guys that kind of impress you on a you know, a weekly basis?
I went to Port Royal for the Tuscarora 50 with my fiance and hung out with my buddy Heath Moyle that runs the Hefner car. And my impressive driver the week out there was Tyler Courtney. We all know he's a wheelman, you know, midget, non-wing, whatever, but the level of competition that was out there and being in Pennsylvania alone, you know, what him and the Clausen Marshall racing team has been doing is just impressive. You know, he made the A-main last night, going 4 on the fluff, looked like a non-wing car. It was just nuts. And so he's probably my top guy in a 410 that's been impressive. National tour wise, one of my buddies, Chad Seipert's been working for Garrett Williamson in the 24 car. You know, he put a couple wins together down there. And then his fellow rookie of the year competitor, Chase Randall, 15 years old, and has won a race at Lucas Oil Speedway on a weekly show. And I think sitting like top 10 in points with the national tour. And I never even ran a sprint car at 15, and the throttle control and car control that kid has, you know, he competed down at that West Texas race that Boffman put on, and he outdrove Reitzel on a heat race, and then outdrove Haferteep in a dash. And I couldn't imagine, like, just impressive as heck for a 15-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. How is Heath, by the way? I'm a big Heath Moyle fan. I haven't texted with him in a while.
I haven't talked to him much this week. He's been extremely busy with them.
I would imagine.
And then Cale Kane coming in that he's been pretty hard to get a hold of. But great guy. He's one of my best friends, you know, through his injury deal that he had. Him and I became real close and talked a lot. And he's going to be in my upcoming wedding that we had to postpone thanks to COVID. But, you know, looking forward to having him there, stand up with me. And he's just a good guy.
Is there anything else that you want to drive? I mean, you know, are you somebody who wants to try a midget? You know, have you done a midget before? You know, would you do the Kyle Larson and jump in a late model? I mean, what else is out there that interests you?
Definitely not a late model. I don't think I'm equipped for talent-wise for that. Probably, I'm definitely no Kyle Larson, but midget I'd definitely like to try, and I think I've got a couple opportunities that I could maybe hit. One of my good buddies is Flea Ruzick. And, you know, I've spoke with him a couple times about getting in for a Power Eye show at Jacksonville or something like that. So we were going to try to work something out this year, but once again, COVID ruined about everybody's plans. So we didn't get anything together there, but yeah, midget would be good.
What other tracks that have you not been to that you would like to get to and maybe try out as a driver?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Terre Haute's a track that I think would be fun. Seeing old young kid Ayrton Jeniton go out and hold his own at there was pretty cool. Like I said, I'm a big track guy, so I think anything big would be fun. You know, getting out to California for something would be cool. I'm not a short track guy at all, but I've heard nothing but good things about Trophy Cup out there at Tulare. And whether it be drive or just go out for that as an event, sounds like a good time to me.
So, I mean, talking about Terre Haute, is there a possibility that the wing wouldn't be on?
Absolutely not. I think not only would that about kill me, but my mom and my fiance probably about kill me as well. They're not a whole lot big on the non-wing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving me some time today. If people want to get involved with you, what's a good way that people could reach out and maybe want to say they want to sponsor you?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. All my social media handles are Jamie Ball 5J, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even TikTok. my phone number 641-218-8271. I got my website, jamieball.com, which will direct you to a splash page where you can choose my race page or my real estate page. My number's all over the internet, so just give me a call.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's the other thing is if people are looking for real estate, do you just do residential, or are you open to anything?
I do everything. I've done commercial, land, residential, not just here in Knoxville, anywhere in the state of Iowa. I've got new business cards, and I put Knoxville's fastest realtor with a picture of the racetrack on the back, so hopefully that'll help.
Perfect. Well, Jamie Ball, I certainly appreciate you taking some time today, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and best of luck on your podcast.
Thanks, man.